Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas are vowing revenge after two high-profile assassinations in 24 hours. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in a targeted attack in Tehran this morning. Israel is accused of carrying out the assassination, but has not claimed responsibility. ILTV editor-in-chief Mayan Hoffman has more of the details on the killing of the Hamas political leader in Iran.
Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in Iran this morning, both the terror group and the Iranian Revolutionary Guards confirmed, accusing Israel of carrying out the act they described as a treacherous Zionist raid on his residence in Tehran. Haniyeh was in Tehran to attend Iran's new president's swearing-in ceremony yesterday. He was reportedly killed in his Tehran home alongside one of his bodyguards. Israel has yet to claim responsibility for the targeted killing, which, according to the latest reports, took place at around 2 a.m. Haniyeh was last seen the day before when he met with Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and attended the inauguration ceremony for the Iranian president. Haniyeh was elected head of the Hamas political body in 2017, succeeding Khalid Mashal. He had previously served as Palestinian prime minister in 2006. He left the Gaza Strip in 2019 and lived in exile in Turkey and Qatar, as well as having a residence in Tehran. Both Hamas and Iran vowed revenge for the killing. Hamas described the strike as a severe escalation that would not achieve its goals. One member of the Hamas political bureau, Musa Abu Marzouk, warned that the assassination would not pass in silence. Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas himself condemned the killing, calling it a cowardly act and urging Palestinians to remain united against Israel. There is concern that the assassination will derail the hostage negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Haniyeh had said on February 28th that the Islamist group was showing flexibility in talks with Israel over the Gaza war, but at the same time was ready to continue fighting.
آلامه الكبيرة وتضحياته الجسام في حرب الإبادة الوحشية ضده يوازيها استعداد للدفاع عن شعبنا.
This was the second high-profile assassination attributed to Israel in less than 12 hours, coming after an airstrike in Beirut that killed a top Hezbollah military leader responsible for the attack on Majd al-Shams in northern Israel over the weekend. Shortly before his assassination, Haniyeh accused Israel of failing to win the war against Hamas.
وأنا أستطيع أن أقول رغم الأثمان الباهظة والمروعة التي دفعها الشعب الفلسطيني ودفعتها غزة إلا أن الكيان الصهيوني فشل.
However, given that Haniyeh has long been among the top Hamas leadership held responsible for the October 7th atrocities, is that he is the most senior Hamas official killed since the war started, and on the list of terror leaders that Israel vowed to eliminate this war, it seems the country is one step closer to victory. Haniyeh is expected to have a ceremonial funeral tomorrow in Tehran. Then his body will be transferred to Qatar, where it will eventually be buried.
Well, Israel has confirmed responsibility for the targeted killing of Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut. Hours after searching the rubble in the building struck by Israeli missiles, Hezbollah confirmed Shukr's death. The IDF targeted Shukr in a building in the Hezbollah stronghold of Darkia in Beirut. The strike followed days of intensive diplomacy aimed at curbing Israel's response to Saturday's rocket strike on Majd al-Shams. While taking responsibility for the attack, Israel said Shukr was responsible for the missile strike on the Golan Heights in Majd al-Shams that killed 12 young Israelis on a soccer field and other attacks that killed Israeli civilians.
The IDF will not tolerate terrorist attack on Israeli civilians. We have been responding to these attacks with precise strikes on Hezbollah commanders, terror operatives, and military infrastructures in Lebanon. Hezbollah's ongoing aggression and brutal attacks are dragging the people of Lebanon and the entire Middle East into a wider escalation. While we prefer to resolve hostilities without a wider war, the IDF is fully prepared for any scenario.
Shukr was considered by Israel to be the terror group's most senior military officer and right-hand man to Chief Hassan Nasrallah. He was also wanted by the U.S. for his role in the 1983 attack on the Marines in Beirut. Vice President Kamala Harris stated support for the Israeli action.
I want to address what's happened over the last few hours in terms of the Middle East and be very clear. Israel has a right to defend itself, and I unequivocally support Israel's right to remain secure and to defend the security of Israel. What we know in particular is it has the right to defend itself against a terrorist organization, which is exactly what Hezbollah is. But all of that being said, we still must work on a diplomatic solution to end these attacks, and we will continue to do that work. Thank you all.
Meanwhile, the number of airlines canceling flights to Beirut has continued to rise, with international carriers scrambling to stay away from any escalation in violence across the border. Following the Israeli strike, it's unclear whether the situation in the north will continue to escalate toward all-out war. There's also speculation that following the two assassinations in Beirut and Tehran over the past 24 hours, there could be a combined Iranian-Hezbollah response. And joining us now via Zoom to discuss the dramatic developments is Tamar Gindin, an Iran specialist from the University of Haifa. First, let me just say, wow. Let's start with Tehran. Ismail Haniyeh taken out in an official residence in the Iranian capital. Israel's not claiming responsibility, but we did it, right?
Well, I'm not a decision maker. I didn't, approve of this or know about it in advance, but it's got Israel's fingerprints, and I can't think of any other entity who would want to do it. So I would say it's probably Israel, not as a decision maker.
We're being blamed, so if they carry out revenge, as Iran and Hamas are now both threatening, should we be more concerned now than we were 24 hours ago?
I think we should be, we should be concerned for, it's almost 300 days now. From the situation within and from the situation outside, it's really the past week has every day there's an event that worries me, not only from an outside attack.
Well, let me ask you this.
But this is not, as an Iran expert, I don't know if, as an Iran expert, I don't know if we should worry more than average after a usual assassination. After the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, they threatened and they said that there will be a hard revenge. And then there were all sorts of assassinations. There were a lot of assassinations around December and January, last December and January. And every time they threatened and they promised revenge. And then in April, when Israel, I think Israel even took responsibility for destroying the building next to the Iranian embassy, to the Islamic Republic's embassy in Damascus, and killing 7 high officials from the IRGC, then the criticism from inside Iran, extreme right-wing criticism from within, told the government, you always promise revenge, you always talk about interim esart, hard revenge, but you never do anything. And the people inside were a little bit too happy about the 7 new officials who became what they call cutlets.
Well, let me ask.
They really like talking about cutlets. And then they were under too much pressure to revenge, and then we had the fireworks night on April 14th, which was that they proved their point. They showed they're not afraid to attack Israel from Iranian soil. Israel, with the help of its allies, saved the day mostly. Okay, there was one girl who got hurt, but the damage was not as dramatic as they intended to, if they intended to, because I think all sides are trying to be very cautious, and on one hand, not to show that they're weak. On the other hand, not to drag the whole area into a world war.
All right, Tamar, so we're going to have to leave it there. We can certainly revisit this story in the coming days. but it does not sound as though you're expecting a massive retaliation, but something which is an answer to what Israel did.
I don't know, because the world has changed and the situation has changed. And since the clashes we had, especially around April, both sides don't want to be, the weak side. So that might make me more worried than I was about the December assassinations, for example.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Israel is today facing 3 active fronts with incoming terrorist shellings in the north, ongoing clashes with Hamas in Gaza, and terrorism in Judea and Samaria. The Israeli civilian killed in yesterday's rocket attacks by Hezbollah has been identified as 28-year-old Nir Popko from Kibbutz HaGoshrim. Popko was working outdoors on the kibbutz when the rocket struck 30 meters from where he had been standing. The IDF said that 10 rockets were fired from Lebanon in the attack, and most were intercepted by the Iron Dome missile defense system. The IDF shelled the launch site with artillery. Israeli warplanes also attacked a Hezbollah observation post in the area of Haita al-Shab and terrorist infrastructure of Hezbollah in the area of Kafar Kila in South Lebanon. In Gaza, the IDF is completing operations in the Khan Yunis area. Infantry and Air Force cooperated to eliminate dozens of terrorists by directing observations, accurate sniper fire, tank shells, and airstrikes. In addition, the forces located and destroyed a long-range rocket launcher. And there was a terrorist attack this morning in Judea. An Israeli man in his 50s was stabbed and seriously wounded by terrorists at a junction near the village of Beit Enun near Kiryat Arba. The IDF says that the attacker arrived by car. He first opened fire at an Israeli driver and then attacked the driver with a knife. Soldiers at the scene fired at the driver, but he managed to flee the scene with soldiers in pursuit. The IDF said it's launched a manhunt for the attacker. Israel's strike in Beirut killed Fuad Shukr, head of Hezbollah's operations center. How badly did the hit harm the Lebanese terrorists? ILTV's Mayan Hoffman explains.
Who is the terrorist that Israel assassinated in its retaliation strike against Hezbollah? While his name may not have been familiar to the average viewer, Fuad Shukr was the head of Hezbollah's operations center. He had been one of the terrorist organization's leading military figures since it was established by Iran's Revolutionary Guards more than 4 decades ago. Most recently, he served as a top military advisor to Hezbollah's supreme leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Some considered him number 2 in the organization at large. Shukr is believed to be the mastermind behind Saturday's attack on Majd al-Shams, which left 12 children dead and dozens more injured, many seriously. He also played a key role in the 1983 bombing of the U.S. Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, which killed 241 U.S. service personnel. Yesterday, the U.S. released a wanted poster offering a $5 million reward for confirmation of Shukr's death, although by early today, Hezbollah had confirmed his assassination. Israel attacked Shukr, in his 60s, in an attack on Hezbollah's Shura Council in Beirut.
Well, the Israeli public was impressed by the IDF prowess in reaching leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas, but there is also considerable anxiety about the potential Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iranian retaliation. ILTV reporter Ariella Lachiani got a sense of the mood in Tel Aviv. Ariella?
Yes, Steve. So, of course, yesterday's news of the elimination of not only a top Hezbollah commander, but also of Hamas leader Haniyeh has reignited a great sense of trust and confidence in the IDF. However, naturally, of course, it has also sparked some concern over a possible retaliation. And so I'm out now in Tel Aviv to speak to a few people and to get a gist of what the general feeling is. Do you feel that you have regained some trust in the IDF?
I think the IDF is awoken. I think that the preliminary problems that we had in the beginning of the war of ammunitions, shortage of ammunitions, and strategic issues and so forth have been solved. High commandment has always been okay, and the potential is there.
I think they did a very good job. I don't think it's easy to strike that deep inside of Lebanon and Iran and get exactly to the people that they wanted to kill without causing too much damage to civilians. So I think it's a job well done. I salute them and I thank them. And I think they did the right thing.
Yeah, we get more confidence over IDF, and we feel very confident about the fact that they will go through everything until the end. So, yeah.
Are you scared or worried about a possible retaliation?
We live in the Middle East, and we will settle what was done to us by the methods that are done in the Middle East.
I believe in Hashem, I believe in the IDF, and we've been here before, and we went through it, and this time will be no different.
And finally,
We're very confident about the fact that with the Iron Dome we're protected, and that IDF would react very quickly if anything happens. So we feel confident.
And do you think that this could impact a possible hostage deal?
I think it's irrelevant, and then they'll make a little bit of noise. The Hamas has a serious problem that he understands that we're targeting him completely. So from the Hamas point of view, he doesn't have much options. He won't, if he gives up his hostages, he doesn't have anything left.
Potentially it could delay it, but to be honest, it doesn't seem like Hamas is really interested in striking a deal. They never were really interested, so they'll use whatever excuse they can find in order to say that they're not going to do a deal.
But anyway, I don't think that there was a real motivation from the other side to get into a real deal about the hostages. So according to me, nothing will gonna change, really.
And joining me now via Zoom is independent Middle East strategic intelligence analyst Avi Melamed. Avi, thanks for being with us. The decision to hit the Hamas political leader Haniya in the Iranian capital certainly made a bold statement. The message to Hamas is clear. What's the message, though, to Iran, and what do you think is their likely response?
Well, again, assuming Israel is beyond the killing of Haniya, as you know, Israel did not claim any responsibility, but the message is actually to Iran that the game rules are now changed. I think that this whole series of events for the last less than 24 hours actually, to a large extent, is reshuffling the Iranian game cards. Up until now, the Iranians' master plan, as far as they are concerned, to eliminate Israel was going well. I mean, they are using proxies. They are the one dictating the pace, and basically the Iranians stayed out immune. Now there is a change in that regard, that the Iranian regime is now following the attack, and particularly the hitting Haniya in Tehran. The Iranian regime is now facing a double dilemma. So I think that in that regard, what we are looking at is an Israeli message to the Iranian regime that now there is some change, maybe a significant one, in the game rules.
Avi, we're now on day 299 of the war in Gaza. The fighting inside Gaza has been somewhat low intensity for some days now. Has the North become the most important strategic front? And do you expect that Israel will deploy forces toward the north to focus on the potential war with Hezbollah?
Yes, definitely. I think that what we're going to see particularly now is we're going to see the shift of the way from the story of Gaza towards the northern front, and rightly so, because in the end of the day, this is the big story now and in the visible future. Obviously, you mentioned before talking about contemplating possible Hezbollah's retaliation or even Iranian retaliation. So obviously the whole shift is now moving to the north. Because of the magnitude of possible deterioration in the north, obviously the geostrategic ramifications are accordingly. However, of course, it all depends upon the question, what would be the features, the size, and the outcome of what is likely to be upcoming Hezbollah/Iranian retaliation.
Avi, only a few days ago, it appeared that a hostage for ceasefire deal was getting really close. Does it appear that chances for a deal are now fading amid these other developments? Is the deal no longer a priority for the Israeli government? It doesn't seem to be that it's as much a priority as it was some days ago.
Well, look, as you probably know, in Israeli public opinion, there are different opinions regarding that specific questions. I don't feel that I need to delve into that specific aspect. My perspective would be, however, is that we may see some interesting shift because, as I said before, we are going to see the shifting of way from Gaza Strip to the story of the north. It may also, in a kind of like convoluted process, will result in a process where it could stimulate deal in the context of the story of Gaza. The reason for that is that we should remember that the whole involvement of Hezbollah in the war started October 8 when the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, basically says, look, once there is going to be a ceasefire, we are going to stop the war. We are not heading towards neither ceasefire with Hamas, and it seems like we are heading towards further escalation with Hezbollah in the north. So we may find ourselves in a situation where the nature of the relationship between those two components, ceasefire in Gaza Strip and the escalation or the continuation of the skirmish with Hezbollah, is going to be shift actually, and what is going to impact one the other would be the further escalation with Hezbollah that will impact, I hope, boosting a deal in the context of the hostages.
Let's hope so. Let's bring them home. Thank you so much for being with us, Avi Melamed.
Of course.
And now a moment of Hebrew and the Hebrew word of the week, where each week, along with eTeacher, we learn a new Hebrew word and relate it to the Bible, current affairs, and our everyday lives. For more information on the Rosen School of Hebrew, please scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description. We're back with a new set of relevant words. But first, let's see what we've already learned.
Welcome to Hebrew Word of the Week. I'm Ariella, and in this segment, together with eTeacher, we explore the beauty and depth of the Hebrew language. We'll learn a new Hebrew word or phrase and see how it's used in the Bible, current events, and everyday life. Today's Hebrew word is chofesh. It means freedom in Hebrew. Chofesh embodies the idea of liberty, release, and the ability to act independently. It represents a fundamental human right to be free from oppression and coercion. The word chofesh carries deep significance within Hebrew culture and history. It reflects the ethos of liberation and self-determination, particularly emphasized in the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Chofesh signifies the pursuit of justice and the value of individual autonomy. In modern Hebrew, chofesh is used to convey various aspects of freedom, including political, personal, and intellectual freedoms that are essential in contemporary society. Here are some examples of how the word chofesh is used in a sentence. Yesh li hachofesh la'asot ma shani rotza, meaning I have the freedom to do what I want. Or, אנחנו נלחמים על החופש שלנו, meaning we are fighting for our freedom. So, if you're interested in learning more about the Hebrew language, check out eTeacher. This online and live course is the most established Hebrew language instruction institution. You can learn with a time-proven method for every level or start from scratch. eTeacher offers dynamic online courses with live video lessons, weekly webinars, and ample support, and allows you to connect to a lively global community for an enriched learning experience. Scan the QR code or click the link below and visit the eTeacher website today to learn more. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Hebrew word chofesh. Please join us next week for another episode of Hebrew Word of the Week. In the meantime, I encourage you to practice using the word chofesh in your own life, and feel free to share your experiences with us in the comments below.
And let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected tonight around the country, with temperatures set to reach lows of 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And then tomorrow, sunny skies and hot weather is expected, with temperatures rising to highs of 35 degrees Celsius or 96 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Steve Leibowitz. Thanks for joining us.